What is 1 million cups? I mean, other than Missoula's greatest gathering of caffeinated entrepreneurs. Well, 1 million cups is the purpose of 1 million cups, and the Kauffman, it's an initiative from the Kauffman Foundation, was to establish in communities an arena or a platform, a place where entrepreneurs can practice presenting their business for whatever purpose that may be. They're going to be able to get good at presenting their business for investors, for partners, for whatever purpose, for media. So we provide that venue to do that. And also, 1 million cups in a broader sense is laid out as a way to lift up the entrepreneurial community in actual areas. So in Missoula, we're building up the entrepreneurial community at large by having these the Wednesday mornings together. And also, it's a great place to connect. And we endeavor to connect the dots with our presenters, with resources, with other people in the community so we can help one another and improve and increase and build better businesses. So that's 1 million cups. We have two presenters this morning, and so I'm just going to make the introduction. Our first is Doug Warner with DropTrip. And DropTrip is an elegant and simple idea to improve shipping. And also, as you're about to find out in their video and promotion material, they have a really cute dog. So Doug, I'm just going to introduce you and let you get started. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. All right, so as you said, I'm Doug with DropTrip, and DropTrip is crowdsourced shipping. So let me give you a little bit of our origin story, because every superhero has one. So I was working for a company out of Bozeman, but I was based in Australia for about 6 months, living out of the suitcase with my family, and it was quite a great adventure. But during that time, I learned that climbing equipment in Australia is about 3x what it is here in Montana, and so people wouldn't go climbing with me because they didn't have any equipment, and I couldn't do that with my suitcase. So I had the idea that there are many other colleagues I had in Bozeman who were traveling over to Australia. They could bring stuff and sell it. And that's really the origin story of DropTrip. That's not what we are today, but that's really where we started from. So let me give you a quick video demo of what we do and get to set the concept.
For over 100 years, we've shipped our belongings in exactly the same way. Isn't it time we reimagine a more efficient way of transporting our packages? DropTrip is a crowdsourced shipping community that helps you save money shipping or make money traveling. Just post the item you want shipped, and DropTrip will help match you with someone going that way. Or you can search the site to find a DropTrip user traveling between your package's location and where you are. It's as simple as that. As a shipper, you get to choose how much you want to pay. And as a traveler, you get paid for a trip you're already taking. Both travelers and shippers build a reputation through reviews and experiences, so you can choose who you'd like to work with. Then meet up together and hand off the package. Whatever its size or special needs, you can help load and secure your package so you know your precious cargo is safe. Shippers get the luxury of a lower-cost shipping method and the convenience of not having to go to the post office. Travelers get to help people in their communities and get paid in the process. Once your shipping request is confirmed, DropTrip holds onto your payment until the traveler delivers your item. Whether they are traveling for work or play, you can directly communicate with your traveler via text message. You can check on the status of your package, ensuring its safety, and know exactly where it is. The receiver then personally meets the traveler and accepts the package. Both the traveler and the receiver simply confirm with DropTrip that the package has been safely delivered. Then DropTrip automatically releases the funds to the traveler, making it fast and easy to get paid. DropTrip is an ever-growing crowdsourced shipping community. For both business and personal shipping, DropTrip is a way for you to ship safely and affordably. When people connect, communities thrive. When communities thrive, our world becomes that much better. Together, we're making that happen. DropTrip. It's shipping reimagined.
So what you saw there was B2B, B2C, and C2C shipping. And that's really our sweet spot of figuring out how to make all of this work. Let me give you a couple of examples specific to Missoula. So we had a company here in Missoula who has a sister office in Sheridan, Wyoming. It's about an 8-hour drive away. They had 9 tower computers and monitors showing up at their Missoula office that they needed shipped over to their Sheridan office. And that's what, $4,000 worth of computers. And so they loaded it up in the back of some guy's pickup, gave him $150. He showed up, 8 or 9 hours later in Sheridan, Wyoming. Everybody was very happy. We also had a company in Bozeman called the Montana Sweater Company. Now, Montana Sweater Company, they make sweaters, obviously, and also specialty yarns. And what they had in Hamilton was this display stand that they use for their conventions and displaying all their wares at conventions. Well, the problem is that the display stand was the size of a door. So she was having a hard time getting that display stand shipped from Hamilton to Bozeman to make it worth her while. So she found us, she posted on the site, contacted us almost immediately. She said, I think there's something wrong with your site. So why is that? Well, I've been trying for a year to get this there. A few minutes after I posted, somebody said he'd carry it for me. And it's like, that can't be right. Well, it turns out it was right. The guy is a carpenter here out of, I don't know, Missoula or somewhere in the Bitterroot Valley, and he was driving to Bozeman that weekend to see family. So he was taking his pickup, he could put it in the back of the truck, he was a carpenter, he knew how to handle it correctly so that it wasn't damaged, and it showed up in Bozeman just as part of what this guy was doing, traveling to see family. The third one I wanted to talk about is Grandma Hoot's Products. They are a local barbecue sauce, hot sauce maker. It's a woman and her husband near retirement who have this very small food business going. And one thing about very small food businesses is I can bet that they're on pretty tight margins. So we found them this spring and had the opportunity to talk to them at the Made in Montana show that was up in Helena. And we convinced them to give it a try. What they did on their very first shipment was they took a case of their barbecue sauce. They had to have it shipped to a retailer that was in Big Timber, so about a 4 or 5 hour drive, something like that. Now this is something that's barbecue sauce, relatively low margin, heavy, fragile, it's a case of it. Well, there was a shipper coming by, a traveler coming by, and he was able to carry that for her for very little effort. He threw it in the back seat of his car. He was going from Missoula to Billings, so it was just dropping it off along the way. What made it extra special was our shipper, the grandma in Grandma Hoot's, was very happy that the traveler was able to contact her and say, I'm about to go there, I'm about ready to pick it up. And she said, oh, I'm not at the warehouse where I make this, or her house, or wherever it was. I'm actually at church practicing the organ. Can you swing by there? And so you won't find FedEx, UPS, et cetera, being able to give you that type of white glove, last minute change customer service. So all of those people were very happy with this type of approach. So in the big picture of what we're doing, we have learned that light manufacturing is really one of the sweet spots for what we're doing. And so one of the things that I'm really looking forward to in talking to 1 Million Cups is the opportunity to pick your brains about what companies around the area that you might be contacted with are in the light manufacturing business. They have the awkward things to ship. Margins might not be quite right to ship it any other way. And so I would love your introduction to those types of businesses. Thanks.
All right. Cool. Let me get out the. Don't think this is a dummy microphone. I think I told you last week. It's a real mic, but it doesn't make a sound. It just rolls for video. So when you have a question, raise your hand. We'll pass the mic around. But when we're asking questions here, let's try not to softball any questions for Doug. He's ready to handle anything. So no questions like, why'd you pick green for your logo? Let's ask him some bigger questions. Paul's got one. Here you go.
How do you make money?
How do I make money? So that is a great question. We do make money. We turned on our fee collection process. Just to be really clear, we turned it on in July. We now have revenue, right? So that's a great thing. And the way we make money is when the shipper posts an item on the site, whether it's the collection professionals or Grandma Hoot's or a sweater company, what they do is they say, I'm willing to pay this much money to move my product from point A to point B. Of that much money, we collect $2 plus 20%. So it's a fixed fee based off of however much that they're paying, and they get to choose the price. So we're not setting it based off of mileage or size or difficulty. Whoever has the product to move understands their own problems and also their own pain points with how much money it's worth for them to ship, and then we just collect a percentage of that.
I have two quick questions.
Okay?
One, is there a bidding war sort of thing or an auction where people are underbidding other people to get that gig?
So there is no bidding currently. Really what we're doing is, like I said, we're allowing the shipper to say, here's the price I'm willing to pay. Now, what we have recognized happens on occasion is the shipper will underbid what somebody would be willing to carry something for. You know, I have a piano that needs to move 500 miles and I'll give you $10, right? That we need to educate and correct from our shipper side of things, but there is no other bidding that's going on in the system. So what happens is when I put my, case of salsa out there or case of barbecue sauce out there, I say it's $15 and you can carry it or not carry it. And then whoever offers to carry it, usually what happens is we're focused on the travelers traveling already for some other reason, right? They're taking that trip. That's the guy going to see his family that weekend. And so they're going to be making that trip no matter what. And if they make $15 by making the trip, that's $15 they wouldn't have made by not working through DropTrip. So the bidding is conceptually a little bit different. It's more of an opportunistic rather than I'm going out of my way to make money doing this. But we do expect that there will be some issues in training the shippers into setting the pricing correctly.
Okay, and then how are you spreading the word about your business?
I'm showing up at 1 million cups. But more generally, the underlying issue with anything in the crowdsourced area is it is better than 60% of all people who hear about anything in the crowdsourced economy hear about it via word of mouth. So that's a very real part. That's the most significant part of how we have shaped our marketing budget and our marketing approach is we recognize we work in a network. So we have a network of shippers, we have a network of travelers, and what we're trying to do is identify the hubs of those networks so that we can talk directly to the hubs and they can talk to their connections. And then obviously what happens is there's now a second degree effect. Those people they talk to want to come back and find the source material. So we have a whole bunch of inbound marketing stuff as well.
You talked about a couple of your success stories. What about the non-success stories? How do you manage, damage, liability, that sort of thing?
So non-success stories. Currently, our non-success stories are things not getting shipped, not things failing to show up or getting damaged. And so there are classes of things that just won't get shipped. One of them is distance, right? If you try to ship something from Florida to Seattle, right? There's nobody normally driving that, so it's a more difficult route. So that with distance comes less success, and with size comes less success. So if I'm trying to move a queen-size bed from California to North Dakota, that's going to be less likely to happen than, say, a case of salsa for a 4-hour drive through Montana. So we do have, getting to the other side of your question, we do have insurance. We have $5,000 worth of the oxymoron inland marine insurance, which is the package insurance. So anytime you're shipping something, it's carried and covered by an inland marine policy. So we have $5,000 of coverage for every shipment that happens. And we also, you may have heard from Uber or others, where they run into regulatory issues, it's over lack of insurance. So we also have a $1 million commercial liability insurance policy for every driver during the transit. So between those two things, we should be really well covered, but we also expect that that's more of a marketing thing to have that insurance than it is a practical thing. Doing the research on Airbnb, for instance, they have a very well publicized $1 million policy. They rent somewhere between 500,000 and 1 million rooms a night, and they get 7 claims a year. I talked to Spinlister's CEO, who basically, you have a bicycle, you can rent it out, and you set the price for it. They have a $10,000 policy that they advertise on their bikes. So I asked him, as I was trying to find an insurance policy, where did he get his? And he said, I self-insure. And I said, isn't that a big risk? And he's like, I've never had a claim. I've been running for several years. I've never had a claim. There's been 2 instances where I thought it might come to a claim, and because it's the sharing economy, they're working face-to-face. They work it out amongst themselves. It never escalates to a claim.
My mind works a little like his. It sounds like an amazing service, but I was thinking about a broken bottle of barbecue sauce or something like that and wondering what you did, so you just answered that. So my next question is, do you ever ship by air? Like if somebody wanted to send an orchid to a friend in Florida or something.
Right. So do we ever ship by air? We have 5 classes or 5 sizes of items on our site as you list it. Pocket, fits in a pocket, fits in a backpack, fits in a car, fits in a truck, fits in a trailer. So pocket and backpack are ideally suited for air travel, right? Car, truck, trailer, probably not so much. But within those areas, yes, it is entirely envisioned that we would do that. And that brings me to another thing. How do you get it past TSA? We have a policy that we call the open box policy. In many cases, like you saw in the video, there is no box, right? So you hand the item to the person who's carrying it, they pack it themselves, and then you can honestly answer the question to the TSA, you know, did you pack it yourself? Do you know what's in there? That sort of thing. So it eliminates that problem. But yes, we've certainly envisioned that. It hasn't happened yet, but we fully expect it to. Now, in all honesty, it's expected to be a very small percentage of what we do because there's a lot more car and truck traffic moving around places than there is flight traffic. And also, if you think about where the value is for people to move things, especially with a service like ours, it's those awkward items. And so if it fits in your backpack or your pocket, it's not that awkward, so it's a little bit stranger value question for people to answer. Yes?
Hi. You talked a little bit about sort of how you're marketing your product, and you said word of mouth is sort of the greatest thing. I'm curious as to sort of what your growth strategy has been as far as picking off geographies and how you've executed it and where you've seen the most success.
So that's a great question. So again, I'll get back to the answer to the previous one. We are a network-based company. So we understand everything we're doing is based off of the networks of people who are traveling, people who are shipping. So what we want to do is not force our presence in any particular location because that's starting a network from scratch. We'd rather leverage existing networks. So unlike Uber, when they decided to go to New York City and they just up and started all again in New York City, and then they go to Chicago, they up and start all again in Chicago, there's very little network effect. They're doing a lot of heavy lifting to make that happen. Our plan is to follow where we have shipments occurring naturally. And then once we see that there's a few germs, a few seeds that are planted in those locales, then we'll go there and carpet them a little bit more with some push opportunities. So where have we seen penetration so far? Clearly, Bozeman, Montana, where we're based, is where we've seen the most traction. But we've had, as I pointed out, a lot of traction in Missoula, up into Kalispell, some interest down in Sheridan, Wyoming. We've had a lot of shipments originating within Pocatello and Twin Falls, Idaho, and up into the Spokane area. So we've had further interest from some people in Oregon. So it seems, as I describe that kind of the Northwest is where we're quite interested in going. However, if you look at the site, we have several things right now headed to the Minneapolis area, and we've had other things kind of cropping up organically in Minneapolis area. So it almost seems to me like that's kind of the next likelihood areas is the Minneapolis type thing and the Oregon/Washington type thing is our next 2 big growth areas. And then obviously connecting those paths.
The software that you've developed to crowdsource the movement of products, could that be also adapted to crowdsource the movement of people?
Yes, it can be adapted to crowdsource the movement of people. So in addition to DropTrip.com, we have also registered DropTrip.it, obviously, right? It's just a nice variation. DropTrip.me and DropTrip.us. Now the challenge with rideshare, which is basically what you're saying, is most often people want to make a round trip. And currently the problem we have is network density. So it's a lot easier for you to get one direction at the time that you want than it is to coordinate out and back. So we're not going to solve that problem yet, but we are thinking ahead to saying, yes, one of the things, and I've even tried it recently, one of the things I posted was myself traveling from Missoula to Bozeman. And I didn't get a ride, so I ended up having to drive it myself. But That's the nature of this. And until there is a little bit more density, rideshare is a particularly challenging issue to solve where product movement is a little bit easier because they're a little bit more flexible on time, or can be more flexible on time.
What's the sort of biggest challenge you've encountered in trying to get from idea to execution, and how did you overcome it?
The initial biggest challenge I encountered was insurance. It took me 14 months. Months with an M, months. 14 months. I found the 2 insurance agents in the country who can write that policy. The 2. So that was a big challenge. I got that one resolved now, and I know so much about the insurance in this arena that if anybody ever encounters an insurance question, I can tell you which insurance agent to go talk to. That person is in California, by the way. The other one is in Pennsylvania. So not a lot of coverage here in Montana for that type of thing. But in reality, the biggest challenge as a business is with shipping, people conceptualize shipping as FedEx, UPS, USPS, right? And we are doing something completely different. In fact, most of what we do would not work well on what these guys are doing anyway, right? They are handling a very efficient process. I'll give an example. One of my side businesses is very high-end caving headlamps. $420, $440 headlamp fits in a 4 by 4 by 6 inch box. I can ship that in 2 days anywhere in the US for $6.20. There is no logical reason why DropTrip would ever enter that market, right? There's planes and all this other delivery infrastructure that doesn't work for us. So we are really focused on those things that don't ship via the normal channels, which also, from a business sense, creates a double challenge. So first of all, we have to convince people to break the habit of whenever I have something to ship, I go to the established players instead of to the new guy, right? And then they have to learn what's different and you know, when to go to the new guy. But the second piece of that is also recognizing kind of what it is that we do, right? And educating and challenging people along those lines. But what I've run into is for the people who want our stuff, they don't think of it as a shipping problem. And so we're learning some of the language along the way. I was talking with somebody who does a bridal store in Bozeman, and I said, what are your shipping problems? Her first response is, I don't have any shipping problems. I have all the stuff shipped to my store and it's no problem, right? And I said, well, what about the samples or the dresses that have to go out to the location? It's like, oh yeah, that's a big pain. I have to go out, drive, out to Three Forks, out to Big Sky. I'm driving all the time during my high season. I need to be in the store. So you do have a shipping problem. Oh yeah, I just never thought of it that way because there's nothing that ships where I need to ship in the way that I need to ship, right? So it's breaking down and having us understand that we are not a shipping company, even though we've conceptualized that we're a shipping company. I had a Facebook ad running at the time that said save money shipping. It was targeting businesses, and I had a very low click-through rate. After that conversation, I said save money moving your stuff, left everything else, moving your product, left everything else in the ad the same, doubled the click-through rate. So those are the little tweaks that we're having to figure out right now, is breaking the habits and identifying what people resonate off of that will actually conceptually use our system rather than just taking the habit and going with the established player.
We got time for 2 more questions.
I'm trying to form a question here. The reason someone wants to be a driver, is that the term you would use for the other end of the equation?
Mm-hmm.
It may not always be financial.
Right.
Because if I'm going to have to swing by a church and pick up barbecue sauce and then get off the highway halfway to Bozeman and drop it off somewhere,
right,
that might not be worth it money-wise for me. So what are some of the other reasons you're hearing that people still want to be a part of this economy?
Right, so there are a handful of reasons. So one of them is, obviously, it's a secondary message for us, which we haven't pushed very much, but we're the only zero carbon delivery outfit out there, right? Because somebody's already making the trip. So there's no extra. It's not like with FedEx when you give them the package at your house, they ship it to wherever it is, central US, and then they ship it back to your neighbor, right? Us, we just have somebody deliver it right directly to your neighbor with no extra steps. So there's no hub and spoke type model. So zero carbon offsets, so people who are looking to, improve the environment, people who are looking to build their social structures, meet new people in their areas, keep the money within the community. So all of those reasons make a lot of sense, and different people resonate on different aspects of it.
So you talked about the major carriers really not being your competition.
Right.
Do you see any competitors in this space, and if so, how do you plan to beat them?
There are 3 other competitors in this space. One of them got a lot of press recently, called Roadie. They launched within 3 weeks of when we launched our beta product, so I would say that they are peers to us. The challenge with Roadie is, before they launched, they managed to get $10 million in funding, which is a big war chest to overcome. However, we've watched them make misstep after failure after misstep. So that's a good thing for us. The challenge with Roadie, the reason why we are quite different, is Roadie prices everything on their system as mileage. So it doesn't matter if it's a piano or this coffee cup, it's the same price based off of distance. So that's causing a whole bunch of problems for them in their pricing scheme. The other side of it is they haven't recognized yet, and hopefully they never do, but that the biggest value in shipping is with businesses, not with individuals. So they tout themselves as neighbor-to-neighbor shipping, and they don't pull in the concept of the B2B, B2C scenarios. The other one is Citizen Shipper. They've been around forever. They have reasonable traction, but they work primarily with subcontractors, so businesses that are paid to drive, and so the pricing that they do is higher, and they have a bidding system involved in that so that the driver bids on the package, and so the shipper doesn't have control over their pricing. And the third one is not in the US, so not a concern of ours yet.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
I have a couple quick questions. Who's that really good-looking guy in the video in the rearview mirror with the dog? He looks so familiar.
We used a lot of famous people for cameos on that.
I saw that. That's
So
good.
most of the DropTrip people and their spouses and a few friends from the community. So
As you travel back and forth from Missoula to Bozeman, do you always check and say,
Of course.
Can I take something along?
yes.
Great. What's
Yeah.
the oddest package that you've seen carried? If
You
you
know,
can
we,
answer that.
we were thinking about having an odd package contest at some point, but we've had some strange stuff. I think the display stand, that door, is pretty odd. We haven't had anything truly freakish yet, but we are working with the county over in Bozeman. For some reason, and I don't understand why, they have 4 porta potties in Portland, and they're looking at us to carry them back. And so we were thinking about covering it with a banner that says, "We ship weird stuff."
There's a lot of jokes in there. We thought of some big triangular thing, or
Right.
explaining to the officer why you have this inflatable person. in
Right.
the seat
No,
next
that
to
we
you.
haven't had anything like that yet. One of them that I'm really interested is I was talking with a person in Bozeman. Their friend moved to Seattle and left the avocado tree with them, and she said, "I want it out of my kitchen." So she's thinking about shipping a 7-foot-tall avocado tree, which would
There you
be
go.
awesome.
You can't make it up. This is good.
Right? Exactly.
Okay, so you answered this question. Actually, you asked it at the end of your presentation, but we always ask every presenter, what
Right.
can we do in the 1 Million Cups community? How can we help you connect the dots? What resources do you need? Where can we help you?
Right. And so I spent a lot of last week analyzing every shipment that we've had posted on our site since February, and there are a number of things that really resonate in the conversations that we've had with people and in the shipments that are completed. And that is, as I mentioned towards the end of the presentation, light manufacturing conceptually is a win for us. But there's certain types of things within light manufacturing that work better than others. And for some reason, Grandma Hoots kind of symbolizes it. It's prepackaged, non-perishable foods. If you know anybody in those areas that are doing light manufacturing of prepackaged, non-perishable foods, that'd be great. Currently, I'm using the Made in Montana site as my primary mining source. But we have a number of others that work very well. It's the clothing, it's the art, few other weird things that are just bulky enough that you don't want to ship it, but it fits within a car or a truck very easily. So that's really where we're focused. We've had a lot of very interesting analysis also on the successful transactions. Now this is not just businesses, but these are individuals who are shipping things. Seems like not time sensitive. So anything that needs to go that's not super time sensitive, our average, for something that gets completed on our site, our average time between posting and shipment completed is 10 days. So this is not necessarily an overnight or same day delivery service, but we're dealing with the awkward, weird things that have some delay as possible. The other ones that really are right for us are awkward, and you're making a time versus value type calculation. Is it worth my time, the bridal person? Is it worth my time to drive an hour to drop this stuff off? Couldn't I get somebody else to do it, right? So it's a time value calculation that people are doing. So that's really our sweet spot. If you know people who fit that, I'd love to talk to them.
Great. Thank you very much, Doug.
Thank
Make
you.
sure and take your pick of the amazing 1 million cup swag.
Well, I like these things.
Look at
So
that, because you travel.
yes, exactly.
Very
Thanks.
good. So in 1 million cuppers, if you know someone that fits the bill, if you have a connection, please make sure and talk to Doug afterwards so you can help connect those dots.